All right. Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome in. How is everyone doing? We need to get some elevator music for these things. Can I get a couple of like hellos if you are in and you can hear me? All is well. Thanks. Wow, look at all this. All right. Also, while you're at it, as folks are joining, let's go ahead and have you put in. Wow, so many hellos. Hi, everyone. So happy to have you all. Really glad you guys are here. I am going to request that as I get set up on this side of and put your outside of hellos. Go ahead and put your name, organization, your role in the chat. Always love to get a good idea of who's here with us today, what organizations we have, what familiar names and faces I can see. Well, no faces, but all right. We've got a good bunch. I'm going to give it like another 30 seconds for people to drop things in the chat. Get settled. This message is being recorded. Got it. Yep. For those of you wondering, we are recording this session, so we will share it afterward. We'll also share the slide deck and all that. But let's go ahead and dive in. So here's the premise for today. If you are a membership, actually, before I dive into this, I'm getting ahead of myself. We've done this webinar before. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, throw that out at the very beginning. So if this sounds familiar because you attended it before, that's why. We just got really great feedback, and we realized that there were a handful of people that had registered and weren't able to show, and so we're doing it again. The way we're doing it this time, though, is we're turning this into a series. So today's webinar is going to be 30 minutes. So I'm taking a 60-minute webinar and I'm condensing it to 30, hopefully. And then from there, over the next 3 weeks, we're going to dive into each use case a little bit more. So keep an eye out for a registration link for the next session, which will be next Thursday at the end of the call. But anyways, high level overview. If you are a membership professional or anyone in the association space, you are probably running at least 3 major campaigns every year. So we've got something to bring in new members, acquisition, something to welcome them, onboarding, and then something to keep them, right? So renewals or engagement. Um, and if your organization is like most, these three things are likely a bit disconnected. And by that, I mean what you're gathering in acquisition efforts doesn't always translate to onboarding, and that what you're gathering there doesn't always transfer into what you're communicating via renewals. So they're all treated as 3 separate campaigns, these 3 separate stories instead of chapters within the same story. And that's actually what a membership is experiencing, right? It's not that they're experiencing 3 different books. It's one book, one fluid story, with just different parts to it. So we're talking about why this is important to connect them. Um, yeah, here we go. At any point, feel free to drop questions in the chat, comments, whatever it is that you have. High level agenda, we are talking about the member life cycle. We're going into each use case and then we're going to put it all together. For those of you who don't know me, quick introduction. My name is Brittany. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at PropFuel. Prior to starting at PropFuel, I spent about a decade in membership and marketing roles in healthcare associations in the Chicagoland area. So most recently, the Emergency Nurses Association, and then prior to that, a couple of sleep organizations, so dental sleep medicine and sleep medicine for physicians. I all that to say, I love talking membership. These topics are very near and dear to my heart, and it's kind of like where I belong, right? And so I love having the opportunity to talk about this with all of you. So thanks for joining me. Before we dive into the meat and bones, a quick word on PropFuel. So you have some context as to where some of these examples are coming from. So we are a member insights and engagement platform for associations. And the big idea is behind everything that we do is this whole concept of what if you knew what every member wanted and what to do next? That's the question we help you answer by asking questions. So for those of you who are familiar with us, go ahead and drop in the chat if you are a client. Say yes if you're a client and no if you're a prospect or you are not a client. Would love to see, again, a good mix of people. Ooh, lots of clients. Hello, everybody. So for those of you who are clients, you're pretty familiar with what we do. For those of you who are not, feel free to ask any questions that you have. I'm sure our clients would be happy to respond in the chat based on their feedback. But the way it works is pretty simple. So you ask members a question. You capture what they tell you. They act on that information. From here, instead of sending communications into the void and hoping that something lands, you're actually hearing from members and you're hearing directly from them based off of what they're looking for. Candace, an award-winning client. Welcome. This is so fun. Um, so that's the thread that's running through everything that we're covering today, right? Because whether it's recruitment, onboarding, or renewal, the associations that are getting it right are the ones that actually know their members. So diving into it. We're going to take a couple of minutes just naming what's going on here because I think a lot of teams are dealing with the same things and not necessarily talking about it. And it's not that we're not talking about it because we don't want to. It's because we don't really know what to name it, right? We can't really pinpoint what that key thing is. But here's the reality for most association membership teams. You've got so many staff. So you have a handful of people maybe that are managing hundreds to thousands of member relationships. You've got an AMS that's holding a ton of data, but it doesn't really tell you what to do with the data. So you're lacking the real insights. It's just that you have the data. And then you're sending communications that go out. And as one of our clients described it, you're basically speaking into the void. You don't know what landed. You don't know who read it. You definitely don't know what it meant to the person who got it, or if it was even relevant to them. And the result is that the member agent, to the moment they decide whether or not to renew, it ends up feeling pretty generic. It's the same pitch for everyone. We're sending the same welcome email, same renewal notice that's showing up like a bill, or my favorite, a laundry list of reasons to renew when it might already be too late. So one thing I think that is really important to understand are that the three moments that make or break membership, they're really not random. They're relatively predictable. So you've got the first impression, right? So when a prospect decides whether or not to pay attention to what your organization is saying. Then you've got the first year, and this is when a new member decides whether it was worth it. So they're really testing the waters here of I joined because I saw this thing. The first impression was favorable. Now, is this worth it? And then you've got the renewal decision. And this decision, important to note, is almost never made at renewal time. It's made months prior, based off of all of the things that came before that renewal email. So when we talk about running better campaigns, we are talking about being more present at these moments that matter and making sure that these moments blend together for the member. These moments should feel seamless. They should feel connected and they should feel relevant to each and every member. All right. Anyone like hint water? We're a little bit off topic, but it's great. It's got a summer blend. It's fantastic. Anyways, the reason that running these three campaigns is costing you and your association time, money, whatever it may be, is that every campaign is really starting from zero. So again, what I mentioned at the beginning is what you learn about a member during recruitment isn't informing how you onboard them. And what you learn during onboarding isn't always shaping how you're approaching renewals. So you're doing essentially 3 times the work to get a fraction of the result. And you're essentially starting over each time when really what you should be doing is collecting data on the members at an individual level and then merging all of that into their experience. Again, making it this fluid process. For the group, I want to take the temperature of the room. So of these three things, getting new members in the door, making year one feel worth it, or keeping members at renewal, which one is keeping you up at night? In the chat, go ahead and drop in A, B, or C. I'm really challenging you to pick just one. All of the above. I know, Kristen, it's so tempting to, well, all of them keep me up at night. Pick one specific pain point because I'm gonna watch the chat. And I will come back to this. But the truth is, again, the answer is almost always all three. But by the end of today, so in the next 20 minutes, I want you to see why that's not necessarily a coincidence. Okay, go ahead and keep dropping them in. Feel free to add any comments if you have them. I feel like we've got a good mix. Although a lot of C is coming up. B's, lots of B's. Okay, what do we have here? Oops. All right. Okay. Making year one feel worth it and keeping members at renewal. Stephanie says, I feel like we've nailed the welcome and the onboarding, and our retention rates are far above the national average, but our recruitment process is lacking. Okay, interesting. So, Stephanie, good thing to know. We're touching on recruitment next. Also, the next webinar, again, we're going to go through these pretty high level. I'm likely going to go relatively fast. That's not an accident. It's because we're trying to be mindful of time, but we're going to dive into these things a bit deeper over the next 3 weeks. I hope you can join us. And if not, just sign up for the recording and we'll share those. But okay, chapter 1, we've got recruitment. And the framing I want you to walk out of this with is that recruitment is about converting interest before it disappears. So most of the people who are going to join your association this year have interacted with you in some way, right? They came to an event, they read a post, they went on your website, they attended a webinar like this one. The question we're focusing on right now isn't necessarily how to find them. The question is how to convert them when you have them before their attention moves on. So typical recruitment campaign will often look like this. Tell me if it sounds familiar, and also tell me if I'm completely off, because maybe I am for you guys, and that's totally fine. We'll work through it. But again, step 1, build a list. So you've got this CRM export. It's likely a bit outdated. You're pulling from new contacts, old contacts, a list that you found in your system from 10 years ago that you figure, why not try it? Step 2, you've got an email or some type of communication. You're sending this benefits overview. It's our laundry list, one size fits all email. Whether you're talking, and it's the same email, whether you've been talking to somebody who's been like hovering around, lurking around your association for 3 years, or someone who literally just stumbled onto your site yesterday. So you're talking to these people in the same way because you don't have the right data around them and you don't really know how to separate them out from the crowd, right? So then step 3 is, okay, so you follow up once, maybe twice. They don't convert and you don't have any idea as to why, and then you move on. The fundamental problem here isn't the campaign. It's that it treats every prospect exactly the same. And they're getting the same message, same channel, same thing, regardless of who they are or where they are in their decision. And then the cycle repeats. There's a better way to think about this, okay? So here's the shift. This is, again, going back to the beginning, asking a question. That's the whole we approach things that are working right now in membership. So what happens, what changes when you lead with a question instead of a pitch? I'm not going to read through all of these. The left side of the screen is the broadcast messaging, so sending the same message to everyone, telling them things, leading with your value prop, no follow-up on hesitation, no idea why they did or didn't convert. And the right side of this is conversation, right? These are messages shaped by what they told you because you asked. So you're leading with what they care about. You're surfacing the hesitation. And the key part is you're learning something either way, because when you ask a question, the idea is that you get feedback, you get insights back that you can then apply to your association, your campaigns, the follow-up, whatever that may be. Whatever happens, whatever decision that member makes, you know more for having asked a question. And therefore, the next campaign doesn't have to start from zero. It starts from everything that you learned. High level, this is a framework that we're looking at, right? So one, we're going to identify where prospects are, where you can reach potential members. Two, we're going to open up a conversation. So ask a single question instead of telling them everything that you offer. Three, we're going to identify the hesitation. And this might not be a step that needs to be taken for everyone. It's going to be taken for those who show hesitation or decide not to join, renew, whatever it may be. And then four, you're going to route them down this path based off of what they told you, right? So not everyone's getting the same follow-up. Somebody who says they're hesitant to join because of cost is going down a different path and seeing a different response than someone who says, I wasn't sure this membership was the right membership for me. So 4 steps. So what does this look like in practice? Again, we're going to fly through this because we're diving deeper into acquisition next week. But in short, one of our clients, the Academy of Model Aeronautics, they identified where prospects were. Step 1, the website. They just didn't have a way to capture the data that was coming from the visits. So they started a conversation. Step 2, the approach was very simple. They asked a single question on the homepage. They said, what brings you to our site today? And then step 3 was they figured out who was ready to join, who wasn't. They surfaced the hesitation, if any did exist. And then step 4, they ended up putting them on a personalized path. I'll show you that in just a second. They put them on a personalized path, routed them down this path to essentially guide them to where they needed to be. So again, they surfaced the hesitation and they routed based off of what they were told. So for anyone who came to the website and didn't join, they dropped in one additional question. Is there something holding you back from joining? And then you got to see what people told them. So 46% said that it was cost. 19 were just on the fence. 14% said they didn't have anyone to fly with. So again, the whole idea here is that before this, they had no idea why people weren't joining. And now they know in their members' own words or their prospects' own words, what was holding them back, and they could take them on a path, take them on a journey that was related to the concern that was surfaced, right? So if someone said age or health, they got a message about how you can still contribute to the hobby you love, no matter where you were, no matter what stage of life you were in. If someone said time, they got a message about how membership works for you in the background, and it can still be something of value to you with limited time. So it's the same brand, it's the same product, but the message meets each person where they actually are. And that's what recruitment looks like when it's built as a conversation. High level again, a lot of times it's like, okay, this is great, but did it work? I'm going to leave this here. I would say that this probably worked. 3,800 conversions. So their anonymous traffic turned into over $300,000 worth of revenue, which is amazing. I'm going to leave that there. Okay. So 3 things to take back to the team. These are actionable steps, right? 1, look at your last recruitment campaign, count the responses, not the opens, clicks, like actual replies. If that number is close to 0, you were likely broadcasting, right? So number 2, meet your prospects where they are. So your website, your events, your webinars, the interest is already showing up. The question is whether you are capturing it or letting it go. And then number 3, add in a question before your pitch and make that response determine everything that comes after. We'll dive into this a little bit deeper next week. All right. Quick bridge. Everyone now, AMA knows who's joining and why each of those new members showed up. So everything they said on the way in is now going to help fuel that onboarding experience. So here's what they did next. We're going to talk, well, we'll talk about that in a second, but diving into chapter 2, which is onboarding. I want to reframe this one relatively hard because the word onboarding can sometimes do us a disservice, right? Because it sounds administrative, like paperwork and a welcome kit and all that. And it's not. Onboarding is really the retention strategy that starts on day 1. And this is where renewal is won or lost, right? After they join, are they getting the experience they were expecting? onboarding is not just a welcome sequence. It's not just a welcome kit. It is a retention strategy. So again, renewal decision isn't made in November when the renewal campaign starts. It's made in the first few months of membership based on whether or not a member felt like this was a relevant association and a relevant experience for them. Yeah, that period. Uh, Going through what a new member typically experiences. Day one, we're seeing a welcome email. Week two, we've got a newsletter that's going to every member. We've also probably got about 5 other emails that are coming from other departments. Month six, we've got nothing because we're like, oh, we spent the last 90 days onboarding them. They should have everything they need now. And then month 11 comes and it's the renewal notice. We're like, hey, you're going to renew, right? Like, here's the renewal link. Hope you do. But nobody asked what they were hoping to get when they joined. Nobody noticed when they stopped engaging. Nobody checked in to see if they were getting what they wanted to out of their membership. And then we're shocked when people don't renew. And again, this isn't really like an onboarding problem. It's more of like an attention problem. Are we giving our members the attention that they need? So going into the framework now for onboarding, again, 4 things. We want to learn, connect, collect, and check in. So in short, week one, we're asking them what they want. Week two, we're going to connect them and guide them to the benefits that are relevant to them. Step three, we've got collect, gather all of the preferences that they have, whether that be how they want to communicate, how they prefer to receive information, how they prefer to learn, network, what have you. And then we're going to check in. So we're not just going to do this over the course of 60, 90, 120 days. This is going to go all the way up until renewal. And we're going to incorporate check-ins so that we know where people are at in their memberships. So we're going to go into an example again, high level, going to go kind of fast. We're going to do this in 2 weeks. So if you want more on onboarding, join us in 2 weeks. So for AMA, again, I want to show how this is a continuous story. So they got the member in, now they're onboarding them. So all by changing their approach to more of a conversational one, they saw a 45% engagement rate, which this number doesn't mean much until we say this is double the number of what their previous system was pulling. So again, it's all about like shifting that mindset into we're going to go from telling to asking and figure out how we can better engage and serve our members in this mindset. So zooming out for a second, AMA's onboarding isn't just one welcome email, right? So it's an 8 touchpoint series, and each one is asking the member something different. So the welcome email asks what they want to learn about. Then they ask, have you joined a club? What benefits matter? What resources would you like to explore? Again, putting the member in the driver's seat. And each question gives the member a way to say what matters to them. And then each answer changes what comes next. So these are all opportunities to listen and respond with the right next step. And that's what makes the difference here. So I'm going to zoom into one specific email because you're like, all I see right now is an email sequence. And you just said that's not what onboarding is. If you're thinking that, great thought. That's a good challenge me in my statements. But here's where it gets different, right? So if you zoom into just one of those touch points, take the first email, the welcome email that asks what they'd like to know more about. If someone clicks, where can I learn to fly? Then they're immediately routed to a learning page built for that answer, right? And then 30 days later, they don't just assume everything worked. They send a check-in, say, hey, you've shown interest. Like, where did I learn to fly? Was it a question of something you engaged with? Did you actually learn to fly? If yes, a member gets asked to share their experience. If no, they get help connecting with an instructor. So 1 click, 2 completely different journeys, and this same branching pattern exists behind every single one of those 8 touch points. And that's how you go from a campaign to a relationship, right? Now, tying this all together, the last three touch points in this series are where everything really compounds, right? So, touch point 6 asks how they'd rate their experience on a scale of 1 to 10. It's giving the association a measure of kind of where the member is at so it can flag people. So, CropFuel on the back end has a ton of different workflows to make this really easy for you to understand how people are engaging, what they're doing, etc. So, if somebody rates a 5 or below, or whatever it may be and below, you can tag a team member, get sent a notification so that somebody can reach out. This is when you want to reach out. Somebody gives you like a 2 in the 6th email. You want a human to reach out to that member and say, hey, help us understand kind of where you're at with the membership. What can we do better? What are you looking for? How can we better serve you? This is the time to do it, not after the renewal process has happened, not in an exit survey. So again, these are super important. And I know a lot of times people are like, well, how do you do this for an association of tens of thousands of members? And it's like, well, you get a system that allows you to ask these questions, set up the workflows, and then identify who needs the manual work and what type of work can be automated, like who can receive automated messages. These messages here, let's see if my mouse will move. Beep, boop. Okay, these messages here are the ones that you want to get the attention of members like right away because you've given them enough time to figure out what your association has to offer. And now it turns into, are we giving you what you want? And if not, figure out now is the time again to figure out whether or not that's a thing. All right, I'm getting into the weeds here. Takeaways. These are, again, actionable things you can do today. The first one is audit your welcome sequence. Read every email you send any member in their first 90 days. How much of it is about you, your history, your features, your governance versus about them. Number 2 is identify the first question that you would ask. If you could only ask a new member one thing, what would that be? You have 30 seconds, you're asking them one thing, and this is going to make or break their decision to stay with your association. What are you asking them? Because that question belongs in the first touch point, not buried in a survey later. Number 3, add a mid-year check-in, not a survey, just a short, again, are you getting what you hoped for? Because that single touch point is going to surface more signals than most associations get in a single year. Okay. All right. So now, another quick bridge here. 8 touch points in. AMA knows these members. They know what they cared about, where they were flying, what was working and what wasn't. And that's what made the renewal process and the renewal experience feel different for their members. So the renewal question didn't land cold. It landed in a conversation that had already been going on for months, which is bringing us on to chapter 3. I am mindful of the fact that I've got technically like 7 minutes to go. So again, gonna kind of fly through this. But we're gonna have fun with this. Okay, here we go. Renewals. If you have any questions or if you can stay longer, feel free. Otherwise, again, we're gonna send a recording out after. So forgive me for potentially going over the 30 to 35 minutes that I had. Sorry, Alejandra. Renewals. So chapter 3, renewals. Well, actually, before I do this, one thing that I didn't mention is in this, I didn't call this out. You might have seen it though. The last piece of the onboarding campaign was how likely are you to renew your membership? So again, it's not landing cold. That whole, do you plan on renewing or here's your invoice? They were able to get some feedback from members before that, and that's super important. So again, tying all this together. Uncomfortable truth about most renewal programs is that you are finding out who's disengaged at exactly the wrong moment. And that's typically when the notice goes out and they don't open it. So again, it's not that piece of it is not a renewal strategy. That's more of a rescue operation. And the members who didn't renew didn't decide in November. They decided months earlier. So the question is, how do we figure this out? How do we know who's going to renew and who isn't? The tools are typically fine. When it comes to renewals, email platforms are fine, templates are fine. It's typically the problem. So one, you're segmenting by membership tier and not engagement level. Two, you're leading with a deadline, not the relationship. And 3, you're technically discovering like who's at risk when it's too late. And that's the timing problem, right? If you fix these 3 things and your renewal, you will see the renewal numbers move. It's huge. And it's not because you sent more email, it's because you changed what you knew and when you knew it. Framework, we'll go into this actually when we go into the renewal. We dive a little bit deeper into renewals. So I'm not going to touch on this too much, but again, we're going back to a 4-part framework. So it's who's at risk through AMA. Again, this renewals should not be a rescue operation. It's a conversation. So this isn't the time to be like, we really hope you'll stay with us. This like not begging and pleading thing, but essentially like, again, trying to get the clarity there. It's time for a conversation, a check-in. And that all starts with, are you planning to renew? Asking them their intention, right? Do you plan on renewing? Because if you do, then we're going to nurture you through the renewal process. If you don't, let's figure out why. And can we turn it, maybe step in and really help because something's missing. But each answer is going to route somewhere different, right? So if somebody needs more time, then they'll get a follow-up. If somebody says no, they get asked why. But all this information is something that you can actually do something with. And for this organization specifically, like nearly $1 million in renewal value and almost 12,000 conversions. And this isn't from like a very complicated sequence. It's from asking the question at the right moment and figuring out what to do with everyone from there. So here's what this looked like in production. So again, one email that led with a single question of, are you planning to renew? You've got 3 options. And that question branched into 3 different workflows. So if somebody said yes, they had essentially been put on a smooth path to renew. Somebody said, I need more time. They got a different follow-up. And then anyone who has said no got routed to a new question entirely. And that was the start of a much deeper conversation to again figure out where that gap was. So this wasn't like a blast and hope that everyone's going to renew type of renewal notice. It's a conversation. And it's all starting with a single question. For those who said they weren't renewing, AMA did send up a follow-up. Again, we'll dive into this specific example a little bit more in, I believe it's 3 weeks when we go through renewal campaigns. But again, the whole idea here is like, okay, ask questions, get the information you can and you need from members, and then go from there. Again, the data speaks for itself, the numbers speak for itself, the ROI kind of speaks for itself here. So almost 12,000 conversions and $1 million in revenue there, which is not a coincidence when you start asking questions. And then the main takeaways here. So we've got get the data before renewal season, rewrite the question, the conversation, and the approach that you take. So lead with a question. Do you plan on renewing? Figure out what their intent is and where you want to spend your time. And then figure out why somebody is hesitant if they are. Okay, before we wrap, a couple of things. Go ahead and put in your chat. What's the biggest thing standing between you and this kind of work right now? Right? So we don't have the data. We do have the data and the signals, but we don't know how to act on it. We have the tools, but not team capacity, or we just don't have we don't have the mental capacity to think about this. Amazing. So again, putting this all together, there are 3, we're talking about one story within that story. Every member is walking through these 3 moments. So when your systems and your teams treat them as one story, everything compounds. And that's essentially where I want to land. So if you are at all interested in a system that can help you with this, boy, do I have news for you. This is essentially the bread and butter of prop fuel, right? So if you are interested, you want to learn a little bit more about how this can work for your organization, your association, or just see what it is all about, go ahead and message me. I'm going to I don't know if I can put anything. Yes, I can. You have any questions, you need anything, go ahead and email me. If you want to see Prop Fuel live, I would say the best next step is to schedule a call with the team. I just put that in the chat too. Um, yeah, we've got 0 minutes left. But if people have time and they want to hang out and ask questions, I am here for them. And if not, thank you all for coming. I had such a fun time just speed reading all this stuff. Um, I hope you guys walked away with something valuable. And keep in mind, again, we are doing an entire series over the next 3 weeks. So I hope to see you all there. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat as people duck out. I mean, like closing music. Da-da-da-da. Thanks, everyone. No questions. How do we sign up for the remaining sessions? Stephanie, we'll send a follow-up email that will have the dates and like registration for the next one. It's probably worth noting too, Alejandra, my colleague is Alejandra is on the call. She helps with our marketing. Um, she maybe we can do a save the date for all three so everyone has them in their calendar. I know that calendars fill up quick. All right, everyone. Of the 16 people we've got left, can I sign up the recordings too? I've got 3 weeks of trades. Yes, you can sign up. Anyone who signs up for the actual webinar will also get the recording. So go ahead and just sign up as if you're going to attend, and we will send you the recording of each after each session. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for joining. Good seeing you at MMC. All right, folks. Seeing no further questions, we're going to go ahead and shut this room down. Again, reach out if you, for those of you who are still on the call, there's 11 of you. Reach out if you have any questions. All right. Adios, folks.